All right. Hello, Cyberlanka. Welcome back, Mr. Soon-to-be Linux. I don't know about that. Yes, everyone always needs more coffee. That is a kind of a truism, you know? You can say it at any time of the day to just about anybody. Hello, Minister of Defense. How are you doing? Nice to see you. Hope you're doing well. I saw you posted some YouTube videos on your YouTube channel. That's pretty awesome, man. Looks like you're making a lot of progress on your game. Fantastic. I did see that. Yeah, that's awesome. Good morning, X1. How are you? Thanks for stopping by the stream again. Appreciate it. Okay, so we're gonna do a let's see, we need a feed. Oops. Call this feed follows. Yeah. And then we need some comments here. Goose up. And goose down. Hello, selection phase. Yeah, what's up? Morning, dudes. Doing good today. Just a bored day, but I keep going. Sometimes you have those days, you know. Yeah, it's okay to be bored, man. I tell my kids all the time. They don't even know what bored is. When I grew up, we were actually bored. We would get actually bored. They think they're bored. Being bored's good though. Boredom drives creativity. Boredom drives coming up with new things. Oh, I forgot to start the timer. Okay, so we've got that. And let's see, feed follows is gonna have, it looks like 5 fields. So we've got our ID field, which is gonna be a timestamp. It's also our primary key. Oh no, that's supposed to be a UUID. And then we're gonna need 2 different foreign keys. This is gonna be user ID and feed ID. I think that's right. Foreign key, UUID. Oh, and then we want a unique constraint. How do we do unique constraints on multiple fields? I know there's an example in here where we do let's see. Apply unique constraint in SQL to two primary two foreign keys on table create. Hello, Winterwind. I'm doing well. Yeah, I'm doing great. Obviously, winter is coming, but other than that, but winter's always coming, the words of the Starks. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. So constraint. Unique user feed. Yeah, that's right. Just started learning C. I'm currently stuck on pointers and dereferencing. This stuff is mind-bending. Low-key melting my brain. The coldest winter in Westeros. Well, I feel I have empathy for you there. Yeah. What was I gonna say? Pointers can definitely be difficult at first. I think as long as you're just remember that a pointer is just essentially you holding something that tells you where something else lives. Gets a little bit easier, but yeah. C I found was the hardest language that I've ever dabbled in so far. I thought Rust was difficult, but I found C to be much more difficult myself. But probably means I just need to spend more time with it, you know? But I hope nonetheless you're enjoying yourself. I did find C harder than Rust. Yeah. Yeah. Coming from C#, have to rewire my brain a bit. Yeah, it's not a great mapping. I mean, if you work in C# quite a bit and you always I always think of things in C# in terms of a reference type or a value type, right? And you can sort of map that down onto C in a way, right? Where you can kind of think as reference types is kind of an analogous thing to pointers, because you're passing, you know, you're passing around these things that don't. It's not actually the thing. It's all pointing to the same thing, right? But in C# you don't really have to ever think about like dereferencing, right? Or trying to take the pointer and follow it to the thing that it points to in memory or on the heap. That's all taken care of for you. So it's, yeah, I don't disagree though. It is kind of some mind fuckery. Here's your text fixed. Hi, Steven. Got any tips on what to do as a beginner learning HTML? I've never built a project yet, but I've done a lot of lessons and understand some of it. I've been learning. I think that's wonderful. Been learning for 8 days now. Any tips? My only tip is just to keep doing it. If you want to get better at HTML, you want to get better at any programming language or any skill. I mean, that's just kind of my advice to anybody is you just have to do more of it. It's just time in the saddle, reps. I always say it's just reps. Like I tell my son all the time, that person's a better artist at you because they spent more time doing art. That person's a better Fortnite gamer because they spent more time playing Fortnite. Like, if you want to be good at something, you got to put time, energy, and effort behind it. Yeah, pointer arithmetic's weird. Yeah, that's definitely weird. Or like the idea behind like arrays and C's, you can treat them like pointers, like a pointer to a list of pointers, an array of arrays. Yeah, it's all very strange. I don't know how much time I'll spend going back and doing anything in C, but I think it was good for me to spend some time there, but probably not my language. Sure, X1. Yeah, I'm always happy to offer my advice, although my advice gets kind of boring after a while. Good morning, lasagna. or I should say good evening to you. My weekend has been good. Yeah, nothing really to write home about. Let's see, yesterday we took my son to a doctor's appointment, hung around the house. I streamed for a little bit, watched F1 on Apple TV. I hadn't seen that movie, so I was kind of late to that party. It was okay. It was good. But yeah, no real complaints. And then today I just woke up, so my Sunday has just started. Good morning, Kale. Thanks for being a member, man. Appreciate it. F1 movie. Yeah, it was pretty good. I mean, there were parts of it that were a little like, but for the most part, it was good. All the track scenes were great, you know? A lot of intensity, a lot of action. Let's see, correct me if I'm wrong, but as far as I understand, you can bypass user mode and drop into kernel mode in C, or am I totally off base here? I don't know what user mode versus kernel mode is. So that, you probably know more than I do. Second month of membership? Well, I appreciate you, man. Never feel like you need to be a member, but I do appreciate it. And yes, 2 months does go quickly. I can't believe my kids start school in 2 weeks. Or my wife actually goes back. My wife goes back to school, or I mean, she's not actually in school. She just works at the school. She goes back on the 10th. And then I think my boys go back on that Thursday, on the 13th. So our summer's basically over at this point, which is just absolutely wild to think about. All right, so we need to do, now that we have that, we need to do goose. Okay. Failed to parse version from migration. I guess I'll name this You tried vibe coding today? You didn't like it? Yeah, it's a double-edged sword. I mean, it can feel pretty cool to make a bunch of progress really fast. And then I always end up in this place like, okay, damn, now I need to do something myself, and now I need to figure out how all this is put together. Which doesn't always feel as fun. It's a double-edged sword. Yeah, yep. I was trying to make a little chill out zone, local HTML page that has iframes and stuff for my other pages, but I have no idea what the AI is trying to do. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm sure it's doing stuff, right? But like, yeah, it's the same as like asking a coworker or some other human being to like go off and build something and then come back to you with it, and you're like, oh, okay, interesting. And then if you want to extend it, you got to figure out how it all works. There's a bit, which it isn't that you can't or I can't or you can't. It's just that it's not that fun to spend 30 minutes or a half hour, whatever it is, to grok everything that's been done so far. Basically, user mode is where normal apps run with safety guards, so they can't mess up the hardware or crash the whole OS. Kernel mode is the high privilege zone where the OS and drivers have full access. Ah, interesting. Yeah, I did not know that. I did not know that thing existed. Those two modes existed. So you taught me something new today. I'd rather build it again with this idea in my head. Yeah. I totally with you there. Like I said, I think I've said this before on stream. I just feel whenever I have AI as like a... Whenever I use AI in sort of a read-only mode, I love it. such a helpful, supercharges my productivity, helps me get to answers quicker, helps me figure out issues quicker. But the minute I turn it loose on actually like implementing stuff, I always eventually reach that point in the project where like it can't do what I want it to do, or I want to do something myself, and then I'm paying this huge comprehension tax that then kind of demotivates me to keep working on it, because I'm like, I don't want to go spelunking through all this code. When I vibe code, I imagine that this much be what it's like to work with me. Yeah, I mean, I think there's some analogies there. I really do. I do think there's definitely, not necessarily that you work like AI, but just the analogy of it sort of simulates the same experience as working with other people on something. And I think it simulates it even in an even worse way, because, you know, when you work with an LLM in a session and then that session goes away, or you don't save it, or you lose it, or the context window keeps getting more and more polluted, you know, the difference between the LLM and the human being is the human being still retains comprehension. It can still explain things and grows their knowledge and understanding over time. So when you talk to somebody about something on Monday, you can still talk to them about it on Friday and sort of have a continuous conversation. It's a little harder to do, I find, with large language models. So there's definitely some positives, but there's also some negatives in both cases. But right now, I'm very much just optimizing for my own enjoyment, and I find I have the most fun writing code when I still remain kind of in the pilot's chair myself. Lol's Shadowwalker. Now that's a YouTube username right there. Hey Steven, are there any engineering blogs or blogs in general that you enjoy? One blog that I go back and reference quite a bit, there's this guy in the .NET community named Andrew Locke. His blog, whenever I'm doing Google searches for stuff, it always seems like he's written about the thing that I'm either interested in doing or want to do. I don't know if that really makes it an engineering blog per se, but it sure does always seem to come up whenever I'm noodling around. A lot of the funny thing is most of the, I guess, software engineering content that I've consumed over the last 5 or 6 years has been mostly a lot of video content. And now most of the people have pivoted to doing AI related content. So it's kind of, I've been spending more and more time watching people who do hardware related stuff. Like on YouTube, I've been watching like low level hardware, Jeff Greeling, a lot of Linus Tech Tips, Short Circuit. Yeah, a lot of channels like that right now kind of dominate a large portion of my tech related content consumption. Yeah, I like that I have some sort of product in one day, but I hate it. I want to burn it. Yeah, it also doesn't feel like yours, in my opinion. To me, it doesn't feel like something I created, so I don't care that much about it. Have you ever worked with the interlock class in C#? I have, as far as like using it for an atomic counter, that type of thing. I'm curious if it's even relevant nowadays and if anyone actually uses it. My guess is it might be a thing in framework library code. Yeah, I'm sure it's got use cases, you know. I think a lot of things in languages, as far as language features and stuff, a lot of it I think empowers framework and library code, you know. But if you're writing app level code, a lot of the expressiveness of languages sometimes feels unnecessary. Lol Shadowwalker. Thank you. Yeah, of course. Yeah, I wish I had better recommendations, but yeah, it's AI summer right now, so the content side of the equation, it's kind of an AI desert at the moment. It won't always be that way, but that's where we are at the moment, you know? Oh. Let's see. Fail to run SQL migration. Create table follows. Error, syntax error at or near created at. Oh, I see that. I see the error. There we go. Now we successfully migrated. So let's go back over to our queries. And we are going to add a new query called create follow. I've used interlocked a few times in production code. Well, there you go. There you go, Winterwind. Lasagna has Bradley has some experience. Okay, so we are going to create insert into follows. We have ID created at, and then we need feed ID and user ID. So we're going to need another placeholder. Okay, so we also need to oh, it's already first break. That's an interesting use case, lasagna. Yeah, the thing I always think about locking is it's an interesting solution to a problem, but it very quickly breaks down once you reach a point where you have to scale your app beyond more than one instance, right? And then you get into this whole distributed lock, right? And now you've got a whole new set of complexities. It was to get around a poor decision made much earlier on in the platform, not by me. What? That's not a thing. Nobody ever has to work around the sins of people no longer at the company. That's not a thing. What are we talking about? Let's see, what's going on? Excuse me. Dude, I think they announced, I think US Treasuries are returning 5% right now. Yeah, the 30-year bond has almost a 5% yield on it. That's a crazy, man. Hey, what's up, Mark? Hold on. I think I can beat you to YouTube. I'll beat you. The most annoying thing I've ever done was migrating a single in-memory lock to a distributed lock. It's a pain. It's a pain, but that's why I always say, like, people say, like, oh, locking is a, you know, you can just use a lock, right? And then it's like, yeah, I guess that makes sense in some context. That's like a very easy solution. But I guess in most contexts today, especially if you're in the web app world or building anything that has kind of a server client model and you're dealing with any kind of load, you're going to almost immediately need to move from a lock that works across, right, instances of your application. Wait, who won? I think I won. My message showed up before yours on YouTube. Had to do it because the app started out as a monolith, but then it grew so much that scaling left us with no other choice. Yeah, and you're always going to end up there, right? Like, you're always going to, assuming your app is successful, you know, assuming you do have to have more than one instance of your application running, which would hope is always. Hello, Satya. Good to see you. Thanks for coming back by the stream. Good to see you again. Okay, I think in order to satisfy this challenge, we are gonna need a with clause. What do I want to call this? I guess I'm going to call this with this should actually be up here. With inserted follow. That. I'll be there later again, going to do some home gym right now. Have a beautiful time working on what you're doing right now. Yes, you too. Have a good workout, man. That sounds like my kind of thing. What's the worst advice someone ever gave you personally or professionally? Man, that's tough. I don't think anyone's ever. I can't think of any professional advice that I've ever been given explicitly that I've thought, or personal advice that I've been given explicitly that I look back now and think, man, that was complete trash and dog water. But I definitely have had a lot of bosses over my career who through their actions have kind of taught me exactly what not to do. One particular moment comes to mind where his name was Mike Osborne. He was the fitness director at the local YMCA, and he had just been made the fitness director there. And I was in college at the time. I'd probably been personal training for, I don't know, about a year, maybe a little less than that. And I was also going to class at Missouri Southern State University in Joplin. And I had a class at like 3 o'clock that day, or got out at 3 o'clock, and he had called a like an all hands staff meeting at like 3:30 or something. And the Y and Missouri Southern were they're literally on the opposite sides of town. So it's like a good 15-20 minute drive. And so I called him, or I texted him, I think, and I told him the day before, like, hey, I'm going to be at the meeting, but I have a class that gets out at 3, and I'm going to hightail it over there, but I might be a couple minutes late, right? And I ended up being a little late, and so when I walk in the meeting, it's like a group of people, like everybody in the department's there, and the first thing he does is he looks up and he's like, when I say the meeting's at 3:30 or whatever, I mean it's at 3:30. You know, just completely tries to basically dress me down in front of a group of people. And I remember just being like, I texted you that I might be late. And then it was like he realized that I had done that, and he was like, oh, well, just try to do better. And that moment has always stuck with me because it's one of those things where, you know, you never do things like that in front of other people. You only praise as a leader or a manager in front of other people. You never scold or criticize in front of a group of people. It just destroys your relationship with the people who you're supposed to be in charge of. So that was stuff like that. There's lots of things like that I look back on and think, I've had some really shitty bosses, and I've learned from those shitty bosses what not to do. Personally, the worst advice was never really given to me, but the worst thing I did personally was I took out student loans to go to college. That was the biggest mistake I made since, I guess, being an adult. I should have not taken student loans. I probably shouldn't have gone to college in general, because I haven't ended up using my degree, and I wasted a lot of money and a lot of time. So those I guess are two things that stand out. Long story short, see you, Winter Winds. It was so worse that you didn't even remember. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, bosses are a lot of people end up being leaders and bosses that shouldn't be leaders and bosses. They're just very, very, very shitty people who are far more concerned with their own ego and stature and reputation than the people they're supposed to be leading or managing. But unfortunately, that just seems to be the way of the world. The people who want to be managers are oftentimes the people you do not want to be managers. The people who want to lead the country are the people you don't want to lead the country, right? It's kind of like you should be suspicious of anybody who wants to be in charge of other people. Like, what, you know, what level of egotism or narcissism do you have to think, you know what? I should tell people what to do. I know better for other people. Like, there's a certain level of I don't know, personality disorders that accompany that. Yeah. The really, really bad bosses I've had didn't learn much / anything from. Yeah. Yeah, the only things I took away from bad bosses and bad leaders were just what not to do. I can name every bad boss I've ever had because I have constant fantasies of being able to walk up to them one day and be like, "You're a real asshole back then. Why were you such a dick to me?" Mike Osborne, Travis Renfro, Jason Zerba. Yeah, there was a lot that when I was working in fitness that were just complete douchebags. My boss at Ajinomoto was great. You know, he was my first real corporate boss. Well, he started off as my boss's boss, and then he eventually became my boss. But he was great. He had a different mindset compared to, like, he was much more of a old school kind of company man type of boss. So we didn't see eye to eye on that kind of stuff, but he was really good at there's a lot of things I learned from him about navigating corporate culture and project management and politics of a corporation. And my boss now is great. My boss now is like the best boss I've ever had. Try to do better. I hate that saying. Yeah, we need to do better. That's the even worse one. We just got to do better, guys. When I was around 12 years old and in love with computers, my stepdad told me, "Don't waste your time on that nonsense. You won't be able to find a job doing that. Everyone is going to be doing that." Oh, that was some terrible advice, because I'm guessing me and you are kind of in the same age, Bradley. So yeah, that was awful advice. I kind of kick the one thing I wish, looking back now, is I wish my parent, like, and you can't really fault your parents because how could they have known, right? The world was literally changing underneath their feet. But like, I look at people like Tim the Tatman or Ninja or any of these people who have, I mean, maybe even, you don't even have to be that big of a content creator or streamer to consider yourself successful, but all those guys are my age, right? And they just went wholesale into the thing they loved and the thing they were passionate about, and they built an entire, career out of it. But like my parents, like video games, computers, all that stuff, that wasn't a viable career path. That wasn't a viable future, But they couldn't have known, right? They couldn't have known that was, they were just trying to navigate it the best they could. Yeah. I think about that now that I have kids. I'm constantly trying to check the perception of the world as I have known it versus where the world's going to be in 10, 20 years, right? When they're actually living in it, and trying to make sure that I'm not feeding them information or advice that could be stale, right? Or that could be predicated on outdated information, which is difficult because it's hard to know where the world's going to be. But I think just having awareness about that is a positive thing. Programmers were weird and poor initially, I believe. Yeah, I don't know what it was like for programmers, I guess, before, what was it like to be a computer programmer in the 1960s, 70s, 80s? I have no idea. The Fields Medal winner. I laughed when I heard his mother's profession. Can you guess? Let's see. Accountant? Secretary? I don't know. Math professor? Okay. That is pretty funny. He had some big shoes to fill, huh? But he filled them. He filled them. Now we're gonna need feeds.name and users.name. I'm like, that's very predictable. I think to be world class like that, under 40, you need both nature and nurture for sure. That actually makes me think of a family that I grew up with. My dad took care of their like home network and computers growing up. The Colthorpes. The dad's name was Glenn, and I can't remember the mom's name. The daughter's name was Jean, I think. Jean. But basically, what's funny about their family, it was a mom, a dad, and then there was a son and a daughter. The son and the daughter about my age. And the mom was a math professor at Pitt State University in Pittsburgh, Kansas. Their dad was like he was a professor too, but he was more on the administrative side. But the daughter became a math professor, PhD in math, and the son also became a math teacher. I think he got like his master's in math or something like that. But you know, that's one of those situations where I guess it was destined to be. You know, they're a family of educators. Yeah, it's tricky because AI is sort of a revolution in itself. I think if you ask anyone if they wanted to go perform back-breaking labor in the fields instead of using machinery, most would say no. Yes, you're right. You're 100% right. But there's something unsettling about outsourcing human thinking to AI. I mean, technically typing into a text editor is labor, I suppose. I don't know how to reconcile that, because I do agree with what you're saying. It's like, you know, you could dig a ditch with a shovel, or you could become an operator and run an excavator, right? And in some ways, LLMs or AI, right, as a tool, at least for programmers or coders or writers, is somewhat similar, you know, in a way. But there is a difference to it. There is a difference to it. And maybe that difference is just, you know, me selfishly holding on to something that I shouldn't hold on to. But I do know there's definitely... How do I say this in the nicest way possible? The physical wear and tear of using a shovel to dig a ditch has both positive and negative side effects, right? But then when you take that person out of using the shovel manually and you stick them in an excavator for 8 hours a day on their butt, now it has another physical consequence to it, right? Now you've gone from a very active work to a very sedentary work, right? Even though I'm saying it's not difficult, or maybe you're in hot weather or nasty working conditions, you are sedentary because you're just sitting all day running a machine. So I think there's a corollary there with LLMs and AI, where AI kind of makes your intellectual work somewhat of a sedentary nature, where you're no longer fully engaged intellectually in the activity that you're doing. And I think that's what makes it feel different. And I don't know if that's a good thing, because we've seen what sedentary lifestyles have done for the Western world in terms of their physical health. And I just wonder, could AI ultimately become like... I find AI effectiveness to be all over the place. It is all over the place. But I kind of wonder, like, because physical labor has been removed from so many of our jobs, and now we all live very sedentary lifestyles, which means we all have to make dedicated time to go to the gym and exercise. Does that mean because now we're using AI to do our jobs, it's going to turn us into the mental equivalent of that, where now we have to make dedicated time every day to read or write, or to write code by hand, or to do puzzles, or basically to go to the gym, but go to the gym for your brain, essentially, right? Is that going to be the way of the world in the future, where if you don't find ways to exercise your intellectual abilities, they're going to get worse? Yeah, it's like the machinery. Yeah, just a vessel. 100%. I've seen it turn what would be weeks of work into an hour, but I've also seen things likely take longer because I insist on using AI. I think I would agree from that experience. Yeah. I don't know. I'm not convinced 100% coding with AI is the best choice. I'm not either. I don't want to say I know for other people, because I know everyone's different. But I personally have found that I like to use AI while I code, but I like to use it much more as like a buddy, pair programmer, researcher, assistant than I do as a code gen thing. Nobody likes my agile baseball table. Did you see it? It's in your coding channel. I didn't see it. Oh, no, I did see this. I thought the analogies were pretty apt. Yeah. Could it be a luxury item? Human written code, similar to high-end cars? I've made that prediction myself, Satya. A lot of people tell me no, that's never going to happen because people don't care about the code or how the software was made that they use, and I just completely disagree with that. There's people who always will care. It's a much smaller group of people, right? There's a group of people who only care about price and only care about free, and that exists in every industry, right? But there is always a group of people who care about the brand and the people behind the things they made. It's, or the status of what the thing is, or the status of what the thing gives them, right? So I do think there's a market at some point where there's a group of people who buy products or buy software or use software because they like the fact that it's made by a certain group of people, and that their dollars go to supporting those people and their endeavors. It's like people who run their own bakeries, or people who make custom knives or custom furniture. These are all businesses and they're all niches, and people pay premiums for their products because they like the quality. They like the story behind the company. They like the people behind the company. So I think the same thing will probably happen in software too. And somebody will make a niche off of, human-made software. Like, that's definitely going to be a thing. I think, though, where it actually ends up is I think LLMs just become a tool. Like, I think this delineation between, like, I use AI to code or I don't use AI to code, I think eventually that just goes away. I think large language models just become a tool that sits alongside all the other things that you already use to write code, like an IDE, like a terminal, like a shell, like all those decisions that we already make about what goes into our toolbox. I think large language models will just sit alongside them, and some people will be a maximalist with it, just like with IDEs. Some people love Visual Studio. And then there's the dev who's like, I don't need that. Just give me Vim and a terminal and I'm good, right? I think that's where eventually we end up. I think the conversation about AI coding versus non-AI coding is much more a conversation about, I value the craft of software engineering, or I think the craft of software engineering is dead. I think that's the real divide, and that's the real disagreement and argument that's happening, not whether or not we're using AI to generate code, in my opinion. I think there's a subconscious underlying discussion wrapped in that. The people I know who really care about the craft think AI will ruin it, which is not necessarily true. I view their situation as fear of change. Yeah, I think that they're just manifesting. They perceive people who use AI, or they perceive the usage of AI to be a proxy for I don't care about the craft, or I don't care about software engineering as a profession, right? And I agree, that's not always true. I think the media that you consume could paint the picture that it is true, because a lot of the people who are at kind of the forefront of pushing AI as a means to build things are people who have never written software before in their life, never worked as a professional software engineer, never worked as any kind of an engineer. And I think again, it's like that's why I say I think the real issue has far less to do with using AI versus not using AI, and it has far more to do with people who still care about the work and are afraid that people who don't care about the work are trying to get rid of them who do care. It's like they feel like they're under threat in a way. There's definitely a spectrum people are on with does the right way exist, where some people could care less while others think there's a best way to do things. Yes. And I think the argument can be made that both are true. Because I know that there's companies who have built very large, successful businesses on shitty practices, shitty approaches, bad products, poor quality product. You know what I mean? Like, so there's definitely evidence that you can offer that refutes that any of it matters. But then you kind of come back to this meta level conversation of like, well, who gets to decide what matters? Is it only about the money? I don't, it's completely you reach this point in these arguments where it's kind of a lot of it's subjective, and there isn't really a objectively right answer. Each person and each company, each organization gets to decide for themselves what they want to do and how they want to do it. I just spent that whole work session yapping. Right. Real companies have a ton of... Yes, of course they do. Because a lot of code bases start out supporting very small companies who are stressed just to make payroll. So when you're just trying to make sure you can keep food on people's table, who gives a shit about the best coding practices, right? That's the nature of the beast. Yeah, the whole duct tape programmer paradigm, it does exist for a reason. Because by comparison, they just don't matter. When it's like, we need to slap something together to land a client so we can make payroll this week, that takes precedence over, are we gonna slap that thing together the right way? I was like, what are you gonna do? I think the answer to all this is to build a life you enjoy, spend less than you make, invest the difference, reach some level of independence so that you can decide to work the way you want, with whom you want, when you want. I think that's the only real answer. Developers who have spent time in the industry itself are way more likely to be on the duct tapes programmer spectrum as well. Yes, I think the longer you're the longer you are in any industry, the more you move from idealist to pragmatist. I think that's a very, like, I always think of that Grug Brain meme that you see around a lot where it's like, oops. Where it's like, you know, it's got like a bell curve. And on one end of the bell curve, it's like ideal. Or no, it's like beginner, right? It's like beginner dumb guy. God, I can't write in this thing. And then there's like ideal person. And then there's like the veteran. And you sort of, everybody sort of moves along this curve where like you don't know anything. Now you know a lot, and you think everyone should do everything the way it should be done, the best way it should be done. And then once you get to the other side, you know, you've been in, and maybe this is like experience. Like this is time spent. And the more time you spend, the more you go from, I don't know anything, I know everything, and everyone should do everything the way I think they should do it. And then you move to like, you move back into this place of like, I don't know everything, but I know how to do a few things. And sometimes the simplest solution is the best solution. See if I can find. I've seen if I can find a picture of it because it'll make more sense if I can find a example of it. This right here. I see these memes all over the internet, but like this is such an accurate thing. You either die as a hero or live long enough to become a villain. No truer words have been spoken. You're right. It's funny because you do. You know, you're that like it mirrors the arc of a company, like your time at a company perfectly. Like you started a company, you have the best intentions of like you're gonna make a change, and you're gonna do everything right, and you're gonna try to be an enthusiastic, positive force for good, right? And then 5 years later, you're that employee that's like, slow down there, buddy. Don't worry, this isn't a sprint. This is a marathon. Lock in, okay? It's not all gonna happen overnight. Which I think some people look at that as kind of like sad or maybe like disappointing, but I don't. I look at that as just like a natural progression, you know, a natural evolution. All right, we need to do inner join on, inner join with feeds or users on inserted follow dot user ID equals users dot ID, and then we have to do the same thing with feeds like that. Now, is that going to be good enough? I don't know. Well, there's only one way to find out. We'll do SQL C generate. Syntax error at or near semicolon. Well, there's only one semicolon there. Should this have a semi maybe? What's weird about any kind of experience skill graph is everyone is maximum skill from their own POV. Yes. Yes. But it does make that makes sense though, because your only frame of reference is sort of in a lot of ways is your own skill, right? So that sort of sets your point for comparison in a lot of ways. I've seen devs with 1 year experience getting mid-level titles when really they are still juniors. I'm no different. I had the senior dev title at 3 to 4 years, which is too early. But that just is because in a lot of professions, there isn't a shared, like in a lot of professions that don't require any type of credentialing, there isn't a shared evaluation or a shared way to measure capability or skill, right? Like you compare that to being a lawyer or a doctor or like these things that have like standardized credentialing processes where there's still, don't get me wrong, there's still diversity of skill level, but I think it's much more clustered, right, around a central point, not as disparate, nor is it spread out in terms of time, right? It's like it takes this amount of time to become a doctor. It takes this amount of time to become an orthopedic surgeon. There's no way to like become an orthopedic surgeon 5 years sooner than the other. Right? You got to put in the time to train, to educate. There's no skipping it. There are also no senior. Yes, exactly. That's the stratification. That stratification. But that stratification, Dota, is less about. That is the senior, junior, associate, all that crap. That is about titles. Not titles. That's about pay scales, right? They've just got to be able to graduate a pay scale, so they slap on adjectives in front of the title. That's what that is, in my opinion. All right, let's see what this create, feed, follow, row, ID, created at, updated at, name to? What? No, I don't want that. That's not right. So how do I change that? I should probably alias these. I should probably call this like, I bet they call this out in the lesson. So this should be feed name, and this will be as username. Let's regenerate that. Hi, what's up? Long time no see. Hello, Lauren's boss. I'm doing good. Yeah, no complaints. Spent a lot of time yapping this morning. A lot of time yapping. All right, that seems to have worked. So let's go add our command. Okay, so this is a follow command. All right, what does this command need to do? So this command add a follow command. It takes a single URL argument, creates a new feed follow record for the current user. It should print the name of the feed and the current user once the record is created, which the query we just made should support. You'll need a query to look up feeds by URL. Okay. Let's add that. So we have a get all queries or get all feeds query. So this is going to be a get feed by URL. And so we will do this select, but we will add a where clause that says where URL equals $1. Make sure it, yep, that looks right. So then in our feed, first thing we need to do is we need to say if the length of s.arguments is equal to 0, we have a problem. Return format.aref did not receive expected URL argument. And then if strings.trim, well, actually, I don't think we need to do that. I think we just need to look up the feed. So we can say s.database.get feed by URL, pass in context, background, pass in the s dot URL to follow equals s dot arguments at 0 equals URL to follow. URL for feed to follow. And this will be error. So if error does not equal nil, then we couldn't find it. So we'll say return format error, unable to find feed with URL %s URL follow. Otherwise, we have the feed and we can follow. Good morning, Filthy Potato. How goes it out there on the West Coast? It's early, actually, still out there for you, huh? It's like 5:40. Oh wait, no, are you 2 hours behind me? So it's 4:30. Yeah, 4:40. That's super. That's super early, man. 450 degrees, we vibing. Dude, it's been kind of cool here the last couple days. Like yesterday, I don't know if it got up to 80 degrees. Today it's supposed to get up to 85. Hello, Kalak. Call, I think I said your name correctly. Sorry if I messed up your name, man. It's 5:11 where you are. Very cool. It is 6:40 a.m. where I'm at. Good. I'm glad you're doing well. Okay, so ID is going to be uuid.new. We have time updated created at time.now. We have updated at, which is time.now. What else? Feed ID, which is feed.id. And then user ID, which is the current user, which would be s.getCurrentUser dot whoops. Current user equals s dot get current user. And I'm just going to ignore the error. So if we don't have a current user, we got big problems. And then let's do feed follow, or let's do follow. Created follow. Created follow. An error, which equals s.database. Create feed follow. Takes our context and our create feed follow params. So we'll do if error does not equal nil, we will return an error that says unable to follow feed name %s. Hey Kalak, US or oh man, you're spamming it in there, aren't you? I'm in the US. Yep, I'm in Kansas. Olathe, Kansas. I guess Kansas City, Kansas is probably more. If you're familiar with the geography of the United States, most people can figure out where Kansas City, Kansas is. Otherwise, we need to print format print f successfully. Should print the name of the feed and the current user. What do I want this message to say? I guess I should just say successfully followed feed. So this will be created follow dot user name add a following command. It should print all the names of the feeds the current user is following. Okay. Following command. We're gonna need a new query. So let's do This is going to be a create feed follow. I'm going to say get follows, get following for user. And this will be many. Okay. I'm also gonna rename this to create follow. And now we'll do select. What do we want to select? So we want to select everything from the follows. So follows star. But then we also need to get the name. So feeds.name. Yeah, feeds.name. So we'll do from follows. And then we have to do an inner join on feeds. And we do that based on follows.feed ID equals feeds.id. Yeah, because that will save us. Because if we didn't do that, then we'd have to look up. We'd have to do a lookup in our code for every single name, right? So we'll do that. So let's go look at the code that it generated just to make sure. Oh, this is feeds, one follows. So that's our create follow. This is our get following for user, which returns a get following for user row, which is ID created at, updated at, user ID, feed ID, and name. That actually should be feed name, right? That's much more applicable. So let's go back here and let's alias feeds.name as feed name. Or feed name like this. Hey, what's up, Josh? I heard there was a party, so I invited myself. You're always welcome, man. I hope things are well for you. It's so chill watching you code. I missed it. No AI, only enjoying the process itself. Yeah, I still enjoy it quite a bit. Maybe eventually I'll reach Uncle Bob status where I don't actually enjoy writing code, but I still sure do enjoy it myself. Yeah, but not everyone needs to, not everybody enjoys lifting weights. Some people like doing yoga. That doesn't invalidate my enjoyment of deadlifting, right? They can do yoga, I can deadlift. It's fine. Great. Oh, this should be create follow. Create follow. Rams. Good to see you, man. Your lives are kicking ass. Oh, well, I don't know if they kick ass, but I very much appreciate the encouragement. I guess my lives are my lives, They're a nice way to spend some time making content. Good creative outlet, good accountability to keep making progress on goals that I set. We've got to do something with I got to figure out somehow to pass the time, I still got probably another decade and a half before I can consider hanging up my hanging it up, you know, retiring. So might as well have some fun while you pass the time. What am I looking for? Yeah, the following command. So what I want to do here is we want to say users follows, or let's just do follows, which is going to be equal to s.database get following. Get following. No, that's the wrong descriptor. It should be get follows, not following. Get follows for user. Follows. Get following. No. Get follows for user. I know you don't think I have that, but I do. And this will be get current user. Get current user error equals s dot get current user dot id. Oh, I forgot to parameterize that query, didn't I? SQL. Yeah. So this needs a where clause. Where follows dot user ID equals 1. Okay, so if error does not, I'm going to finish this real quick. Hold on, pause that break. Let me just get this to a stopping point. Return error. Unable to find follows for user. Then we'll say for follow range over follows, and we will say format.println, and we will print the feeds. So we'll do star printf, we'll do star space, we'll do the name of the feed. Yeah, the name of the feed. So this will be %s and follow dot feed name. Yeah, feed name. Enhance the add feed command. It should now automatically create a feed follow record for the current user when they add a feed. So add feed command. So we create the feed. And then we should also make sure after we create the feed, We also do follow error equals s database create follow, which is going to have create follow row create follow params equals database create follows params. That'll get passed to this, like that. And then what do we need in here? So we need ID equals UUID dot new. And then we need created at time.now, updated at time.now, user ID equals the current user ID, and the feed ID is going to be the created feed ID, like that. We probably should have successfully added feed with URL, successfully added and followed feed. I don't think I need to do anything with this follow, so I'm just going to ignore it. No new variables on oh. Cool. Okay, quick test, and then we'll make some coffee. So quick test real quick. Let's do go run users. Okay, let's go run dot register myself. Then go run dot add my blog feed. And then let's do go run dot following, and it just prints my blog. So let's do go login, or hold on, go run dot users, go run dot login as Balin. Then we're gonna go run dot follow, and we're gonna do it by the URL, right? So it's got to be https blog.stephenfreeborn.com //RSS. Successfully followed blog. And if we do go run dot following for Balin, okay, now let's just look at the database real quick. So let's look at select star from follows. So there should be 2 in there. It's kind of hard to tell because I'm in this tiny little pane, but there is definitely 2 entries. Cool. So I think it works. Q. And let's try to run our checks. Okay, I think that was successful. Now let's actually try to submit. Hells yeah. Look at us. All right. Now time for a break. Oh, goodness. Ah. Okay. All right, we have 3 command handlers. They all share this code. Create logged in middleware. It will allow us to change the function signature of our handlers that require a logged in user to accept a user as an argument and dry up our code. It wants us to implement this, which I think seems redundant, but it wants us to implement middleware so you can do that. Which I think is kind of silly, because I already added a function that does this, basically. I am curious to see what his code looks like. I don't think I'm actually going to implement this. So let's just submit our current. Okay, that works. Let's look at his code though, see what he did with it. So where's his solution file? Solution. Okay, so here's his code. Not really like that. So he's basically just getting rid of this, I think. So I guess I don't understand how his middleware works. Where's his middle? Okay, middleware, handler. Oh, so he just basically every command has a user now attached to it. Now where's the middleware? Huh. Well, I guess the one downside about me not using middleware and my approach is I still have to check. I either have to ignore the current user error or I have to check it. So maybe it would be beneficial for me to implement the middleware. I don't know. All right, I think I've got like maybe one more session in me, and then I think I'm gonna end stream a little early because I have a bunch of yard work to do, and I'd much rather get started on it before the temperature warms up. It says it's 66 out there right now, so. All right, so the question is to implement middleware or not to implement middleware. I don't think I'm going to do it. I don't think I'm going to do it. All right. You can follow feeds. It only makes sense to be able to unfollow them. Add a new SQL query to delete a feed follow record by user and feed ID combination. Add a new unfollow command that accepts a feed's URL as an argument and unfollows it for the current user. This is, of course, a logged in command. Use the new middleware. So are there going to be logged out commands, I wonder? Yeah, because it begs the question: if you add the middleware, and then you have the option to not add the middleware, but the function signature remains the same. I think the better design choice. Love your 2E chat stats. Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, that's my term chat app. I am currently still making progress on it. I haven't released it publicly. It's still got some bugs and stuff in it. Good to see you, MD. It's been a minute. I think the right design choice in this application is to have separate command handlers that have different signatures, and then have the middleware return that. Yeah. That's what I think the right solution is. Because I think either way you go, you could potentially duplicate error checks, right? I'm kind of thinking out loud here, but just let me explain my thinking. So the reason why he wanted me to introduce this middleware is because I have to write this code more than once, right? So he said, okay, update your handler definition. So maybe he already addressed that. Let me see. Where's his solution files? Okay, where's his register command at? Ah, yes, I see. Okay, so he does address that. Okay, we're gonna add it. We're just gonna go ahead and add it. After all that debate, I like the design. I like it. Okay. So let's go to command. Let's add a middleware.go. And let's do a new function. Whoops. I'm actually going to not call mine middleware. I'm going to call mine require logged in user. I'm going to do that. And so this guy is going to take in what are you going to take in? You're going to take in a handler, which is a function that accepts state and database.user. And this returns an error. And then it returns a command handler. Like that. This will be logged in user error s.get current user context.background if error does not equal nil, return error. Now you're complaining. Now why are you complaining? Cannot use as database user value. Oh, should that not be a pointer? Okay. Huh. I'm gonna pass it as a pointer. Codius. Steven, how's it going? If you need to learn to read hex like a letter, I sent it in the Discord projects. Let me see. Also, hello. Good to see you, Codius. Learn to read hex like a letter. Oh, interesting. Yeah, that could probably be useful. I don't know. I find working in hexadecimal difficult. But yeah, I'm doing good, man. Yeah, we're just having ourselves a pretty chill morning. Okay, and then we can come here. And then basically in all the commands where we say get get current user. So add feed command. We should wrap this in require logged in user. And this would take a current user variable, which we will refer to as database dot user. Okay, and then that means we can get rid of this call. And we just have to do that everywhere we have that logic. Get current user. So now we say require logged in user func. Pass this to current user database dot user. Throw another one of those on there. Get rid of that guy. And I think we just have one more. Get current user. Yeah, that's the last one right here. How's the blog ag looking? Oh, it's going good. Yeah, it's been fun. Just trying to slowly make progress to get to level 100. That's still my main goal right now, at least with what I'm doing on stream, is to try to get to Archmage status on boot.dev. I spent far too much time yapping this morning, so we didn't really make as much progress as I normally would like to, but it's going good. Cannot complain. All right, now that we added those, let's run this back. Let's go back to this guy, middleware. Let's rerun these checks. Success. Okay. Still works. Still works. Now let's add the unfollow. So we'll go to follows.sql. Let's add a new query. This is going to be name delete follow for user. And I think this will just be an exec. And we'll say delete from follows where follows what do you want? Follows dot ID. I guess we don't need to alias. We can just do we don't need to namespace, so we can just do ID equals 1 and user ID equals 2. And this actually shouldn't be user ID. This should be feed ID. Okay, let's generate the SQL for that. Do a quick peek at it just to make sure it looks good. Yeah, I think that looks right. So now we need to add our command. This is going to be func unfollow command, which returns a command. And then we're going to need to use our same middleware. So let's just copy this. And let's do unfollow. Hey, good morning, Justin. Good morning to you as well. Okay, let's go ahead and look up so we need 2 pieces of information, right? We need the feed. So if the length of s.arguments equals 0, we should return an error that says did not receive expected feed URL argument. I don't know though. There's one problem with the design of this CLI. Some of the commands use URL to identify things for follows or for feeds, and some uses the name of the feed. If it was me, I think you should just use the name. And I don't know why we're not doing that. Add a new unfollow command that accepts a feed's URL as an argument and unfollows it for the current user. So now that we're here, we need to get the feed from the URL. So we'd say state.database.get feed by URL. Let's do feed URL. Crap, I keep doing that. Feed URL. And then context.background. And if error does not equal nil, we'll say return unable to find feed with URL %s. Otherwise, we'll try to delete it for the current user. So we'll say, I guess error, and then we say s.database.delete follow for user. Delete follow params. Delete follow params equals delete database dot feed delete. Pretty simple one. It just takes the user ID, which is the current user, and the feed ID, which is feed. .id, and I think, yeah, it just returns an error. So if error is not equal nil, we'll return format.errf, unable to delete feed. Or no, unable to unfollow feed. And we'll do feed dot name. That. Otherwise, we'll print a success message and we'll say successfully unfollowed. This is going to be S. I think that works. All right, let's give it a test run. So we'll do go run dot register myself, go run dot login as Steven, go run dot add feed. Okay, so if I go run dot following, I should see my blog in there. Okay, then we'll do go run unfollow. So since this is what I meant by like the inconsistency of the design, we're printing the URL, we're printing the name of the blog when we do the following command, but in order to unfollow, I actually have to pass the URL, which is kind of annoying. I can't just say unfollow blog. Whoops, I forgot to register it. Unfollow command. I can't do that. Unable to find feed with URL, yeah. So I have to do go run unfollow, and then I have to type my long ass URL name, which is dumb. Bad design. Yeah, that's bad design in my opinion, but that's the way they want it built, so that's the way we're going to build it. Who are we to argue with what the specification is? Success. I like how you're able to naturally express business requirements in code with the batteries included framework. Do you have opinions on that? No, I think batteries included frameworks are great. I haven't used a ton of them. The ones that I have seen, like Rails and Laravel, which I consider those batteries included because they come with a database. They come with a queue, a way to do queuing, background processes. What else? They come with a like an architecture, right? Like this is where your views go. This is where your models go. This is so I like that aspect of those frameworks. There's very much this is how you do things. The one thing I will say about both those frameworks is when I've looked at like the starter projects for each of those, it can be a little overwhelming because there's a lot. You know, like when you scaffold a new Laravel project or you scaffold a new Rails project, there's like a lot of code. And so if you're kind of newer or earlier in your career, I think it's a little overwhelming, right? So it's like a double-edged sword. The structure is nice because it clearly kind of takes out the guesswork. Like, oh, you want to add a new CRUD operation? This is what you do, right? Go here, create this. Go here, create that. Or run this command to scaffold that new operation. I would love if something like that existed for the JavaScript community, which I guess somebody is working on one. I forget the name of it. There is one out there, but I don't remember what it's called. There isn't really anything like that in .NET. Most people in .NET just kind of take some of the Microsoft provided solutions and then put them together. You know, they take like the identity and entity framework, MVC, right? And they'll kind of use all these tools and stitch together, kind of out of the box, batteries included. But there isn't really, to my knowledge, kind of a Rails equivalent or a Laravel equivalent to that in the .NET community. Yeah, it threw me off when I first got into it, but then I came to love their convention over configurate. Yeah, I totally understand the appeal. Yeah, like I said, I've never worked in it. I've never actually built a Laravel app or a Rails application. I've only explored it insofar of like, what does this look like when you scaffold a new project? That's about as far as I've gone, just to compare it to like what you get when you use something like Next.js or Nuxt, right? Which that's in the JavaScript ecosystem. When someone says full stack framework, right, or batteries included framework, that's typically like people are talking about those things. But those things aren't really batteries included when you really get down to it, because you still have all these other considerations that any real world app is going to have that aren't addressed, and you have to come up with your own solution. But yeah, I would love to see something like that in the .NET framework, where maybe you pull in like maybe some MVC architecture, entity framework, identity, and maybe something like Hangfire or Quartz for background jobs or durable jobs, for queuing and stuff like that. And somebody composes those all in like a starter framework. That would be pretty cool. Because most of the time you kind of just have to hack all that together yourself. So I agree with you. I'm totally on board with those solutions. All right, this next chapter is the big. I see. Maybe you could do it. Wink, wink. I'm just not that interested in building stuff for developers, honestly. I know that. Of course, yeah. I'm always happy to share my thoughts and opinions. Although they're not always very good thoughts and opinions, and they're sometimes repetitive and boring. But I'm always happy to answer questions. I'm pretty much an open book when it comes to that kind of stuff. But yeah, I don't know. The idea of building stuff for developers just doesn't appeal to me. I find developers to be some of the worst customers. I mean, I try not to be that way. I try not to be a developer who's a bad customer, but I look out at other like open source projects and other developer tooling, and I just look at the general way that developers interact with those projects or tools, and I just think, oh my god, what a nightmare, man. Half of these people aren't even paying anything. Half of these people don't even contribute anything, but they want everything for free. It's just awful. Building tooling for devs is like being a doctor's doctor. Yeah, it would be a lot like that. Yeah, at least with the doctor's doctor, at least you're still getting compensated, even if all your decisions are being second guessed and evaluated, right, by someone who's of equal training. But like in the developer community, people don't even want to be paying customers. They want to have all the opinions. They want to tell you everything you're doing wrong. They want you to do twice as much in half amount of time. They trivialize everything. You know, it's like, why haven't you done XYZ? It's so easy. You could just do ABC, right? And then the minute you say, you know what, there's a commercial license now, they call the other developer that's instituting the license, they call them a sellout or a fraud or a scam or a traitor or whatever ad hominem attack they want to lever. So the idea of like building it's one thing to build something and share it and be like, hey, I thought this was cool. Maybe you can benefit from it too. It's a whole nother thing to like want to actually build a framework and support a framework and Yeah, I don't know how people like Taylor, what is his name, Taylor Otwell, the guy behind Laravel. I don't know how guys like that do that. Although it does seem like some of the nicest developers are in the Laravel, the PHP Laravel community. It seems like they have a really nice, very pragmatic, solution-oriented community from afar. That's just me looking at it from like an outsider perspective. Hey, what's up, Gun Heist? We do have free will. I'm getting ready to exercise my free will, actually. I'm probably going to wrap up stream here in a few minutes, and I gotta go pull some weeds. I've got a couple flower beds that are just out of control. Gotta pull weeds, dig up some small little baby trees that have started to grow in there, and I'm going to try to get out there and do that before it gets too hot. It says it's 68 right now. It's going to get up to 85 degrees. I came and stream is wrapping up. Free will at its finest. Yes. Yeah. I would probably feel more compelled to stay and stream longer if I actually made money from streaming, but but I don't make money from streaming, so. It was 104 yesterday where I'm at. Dude. That has been the heat. That has been how the weather has been the last 2 weeks. And we got lucky on Friday. It rained. Friday night into Saturday morning, it rained. And so Friday, it was like, I don't even think it got up to 80. And then same thing yesterday. I don't think it got up to 80 yesterday. It was so nice. I'm very much looking forward to fall. Yeah, it looks like yesterday's high was 85, so it did get up to 80 yesterday. And then let's see, that was the second. No, it got up to 81 yesterday, so that was the high. I don't know what Friday's high was, but it was so nice outside. Yeah, if it's 104, you probably should be in a body of water. So I think. Sounds like you guys are. I mean, you should be in a body of water if you're outside. Yeah. No problem, Steve. I don't mind. Get exercise as you need. Yeah, it's not anything I want to do. Like, I hate yard work. Hate it. If you give me an AI that will do yard work for me, give me a robot and an LLM, and if I can sick them on doing the yard work, I would be a happy man. That way I can just sit at my desk and write code, and the AI can do the stuff I don't want to do. Oh, I know you're joking, Gun Heist. I know you're joking. All right, let's see if we can commit our progress today. Is this the last step? This is literally the last step. Okay, well, we're gonna go ahead and commit our progress, and we'll come back and finish this off. So let's see, what features added, new commands. What did we add today? We added follow command. What else? Added unfollow command. Added following command. Introduced logged in user middleware. Sounds like we got a new SaaS. Dude, I'm not even telling you. I would be the first customer. I don't know if I'd want it to be a SaaS product, but if I could purchase a robot to push my mower around and pull weeds and cut branches and trims and limbs and stuff, that'd be wonderful. That's the kind of stuff that like I would be excited about AI for, you know? Like I feel like so much of the time on my channel or on my streams, I'm always talking about things I don't like about AI more than I'm talking about things I do like about it. But I think it's because I've yet to experience in my personal life the effects of AI that have been actually dramatically changed or improved my life in a meaningful way, because I've never needed somebody to take away writing code for me, you know? So that this is not really important, but I would love it to take away chores for me. It's that, but for weed whacking, cutting grass, yes, it would be awesome. Okay, wait, hear me out. It's like those vacuums for the house that are robotic and are autonomous. Yeah, like Roombas. And there's a couple larger name brand robots. Yeah, $1 billion, exactly. Take my money. Take my money. 100%. Be the greatest. All right. That's going to do it for me. It's a shorter one this morning, but it was a good one. We yapped a lot to start with. Then we wrote a little bit of code. See, Justin? Bye, Shadow Walker. Yeah, of course. Yeah, I'm always here in the morning, so you're always welcome to stop back by. No pressure to, though, but I'll be here if you want to stop in and say hi. Enjoy your day as well, Shadow Walker. Enjoy it as well. All right. Bye, guys. Bye, Justin. Bye, Shadow Walker. Bye, Gun Highs. Anybody else that's still out there lurking? Bye. See you guys. Have a good day.